Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to On the Mic with Mike. It is the premier business radio program. We're coming to you from the Grove. We're down in Petersburg. That's right. We took our talents down to Petersburg with our good friends over here at Poplar Springs Hospital. We'd like to thank them for being one of the sponsors of the program. On the Mic with Mike, it is part of the Mike King Biz Radio Network, which is ESPN Richmond 106.1, 5 to 7 a.m. The Choice 105.3 every day. That's gospel. After we're going to touch your soul. And then we're on International Business Growth Radio on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern. When I say we get the best and the brightest, we get the game changers, I talked to all types of folks out there today. I'm bringing to you, this is historic. So I have Tina Watkins. She is the fire chief in Petersburg. She is the first female fire chief in Petersburg, as well as the first fire chief in the state of Virginia. Is that correct?
As a female, yeah.
As a female. Okay, ma'am, welcome to the program. Welcome.
Thank you.
All righty. You had said you were touched by being a fireman. It's a fire person. Now, I can't call it. That's exactly what I was thinking. Firefighter. At the tender age of 8 years old.
8 years old.
What did it?
Well, as a child, back during that time, we had a small fire in my house. It was electrical. Back then, my father had purchased a brand new electric stove, and he kept smelling something burning, but he couldn't figure out where it was coming from. Back during that time, the salesman would come to your house that sold you the stove.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he told my father, Mr. Watkins, I want you to cut everything on as if you're using everything. My dad said, well, I wouldn't do that. He said, no, but we got to, find out where it's coming from. So when he cut on every button, every eye, the whole oven, it started arcing and it started smoking and house got filled up. So called the fire department in, and I was just impressed with at that time, the customer service that they did. And we didn't have to tear up anything because it was just isolated. So I was influenced from then. But even at the age of 8, I told a neighbor I wanted to be a firefighter. And they told me I couldn't be one because it was a man's job. Well, of course, back then, women were limited in their careers. And I really didn't think about it much anymore, but my friends through school have always told me, I still continue to talk about I want to be a firefighter, just in conversation. I didn't go into firefighting until I was 30 years old.
And you then became the chief, and you started it, you went out there hustling. Okay, well, so had there ever been any female firefighters before you?
Oh yeah, it was when I came into the city of Richmond. There's a 10 years difference between me and the first woman that came into the fire service.
Okay.
And I always tell the story of when I went to take the physical agility test, but to qualify, I was one of 58 in a group of 5 that passed the written test to qualify for the physical abilities test.
So 5 out of 58 get to the physical part.
Right, pass that written test. So in taking the physical ability test, I was already a track runner when I came out of high school. So I still kept my running up. And I had conditioned for it anyway. So it's a thing that when you're competing against men, they have this thing about, my track coach used to always tell us, you start out fast in the box, and then you get down to your pace. So when I took off, when I got down to my pace, every guy that passed me had something to say while they were running because they didn't want to get beat. And it wasn't a competitive thing. You won a clock. So I got in, and I remember we turned out to be real good friends, but she told me, she said, you're happy now, but you're not going to remain happy in here. And I looked at her and I said, oh, I'm going to stay happy because I'm not going to let anybody walk on top of me or walk on top of my happiness. I said, because I'm going to be their first female officer. because, you know, she had been there 10 years and I was kind of confused. I mean, you had 10 years on your belt and you was still a firefighter. So from there, I studied and did everything I had to do and took the written test and scored high enough to compete, to go through the assessment process to be promoted to a lieutenant.
Okay, let me ask you. Okay, so when you go through the firefighter school, you make it, you're happy that day. You're happy that day.
You're happy.
When did it sink in that you might be able to do this thing in the long haul and get to higher heights?
From my first day in.
There was no question.
There's no question, because I came from a strong family line. My mother was an educator. My father worked for the post office. And my parents always supported us. There's 4 of us, and I'm the only girl. And I have 3 brothers.
Okay, so that's where that fight comes from.
So, well, probably competitive with my brothers, but we're very close. I mean, you can't separate us. Even to this day, you can't separate us. We're very close. But my parents taught us coming up that there was no such thing as taint. That if you desire to be something, all you had to do was do your homework so you could get to that spot of success. So when you look at that upbringing, we were punished if we said we couldn't do something. If my father told us to do so, whatever, and we said, I can't, we were put on punishment because that word was not allowed in our vocabulary.
So when you become a firefighter, they're just overjoyed because this is something.
My father was more overjoyed than my mother.
Really?
Yes, because all my mother saw was the danger.
Your father saw the excitement.
He just excited. His little girl
is proud.
Right.
This is something people ain't doing.
Right. Right.
So when people see you so how do you go from Richmond to Petersburg? And when people see you, especially girls or little kids, period, how do they see you when they realize that you are the person in charge of the fire department?
You know, even right now, I don't really think that they really see that. I think what they see is they see a woman, an African-American woman, in a position where she is either on fire trucks or she's ridden fire trucks, or, you know, she comes from the fire department. I don't really think it has really sunk in. Now, my goddaughter, now she sees it because for 34 years, I worked in Richmond. So she's grown up under that with me. And for her, it's an exciting moment because she has a godmother that's history.
That is true. So when you go from being a part of the Richmond Fire Department, an important part there, to being the person, okay, we understand somewhat the fire portion, the physical part, we see that. I guess you would call that the tactical side. Let's talk about the administrative side that people don't see. We're talking budgets, we're talking shortages of people. What is that? What's the biggest challenge on that side when people see you?
Well, I would say with any department, not just with seeing me, those challenges are throughout the country. Now, being here in this area and the things that I know from doing my research, I have a lot of work to do. I have to redevelop people. I have to put people in place who want to learn. I have to raise the education level up. And I have to set the bar for success in the right way, because you've had people who've been so complacent with just not doing anything. So, and then I have to find ways in the budget that's going to support it, that is not going to break the system. And there are things out here that are available that you can send people to get educated and it doesn't cost you a whole lot. But you have to be creative with it. And you only want to send those who really want to grow.
So we're here with Fire Chief Tina Watkins talking about all the great things that are happening here in Petersburg. Let me get the Petersburg 30-second elevator pitch. Who you guys are.
who we are. We're
That's-
professionals, customer service oriented, looking to grow the future of the city of Petersburg.
Okay, that definitely is, and that's how people see. You always hear about the strife with police and the citizens.
Mhm.
You never hear about that with the fire department. The missions are different,
Right.
I'm sure, but you always see the fire department. There's that Dalmatian. The doors are open. You know.
Well, you know how the Dalmatian got into the fire?
No, okay. So here, that's the best part about having your own show. Okay.
The Dalmatian used to hang out when the horses were in the stall, and they kept the horses from being stolen. So when the guys went out to fires, the Dalmatians used to run alongside of the horses because they didn't want to leave the horses. So they started putting them on top of the wagon when they rode down the house.
Really?
Yeah, that's folklore. Yeah.
So because that's what we put together with the fire department.
Right. That's the image. Right.
So let's talk about, as the fire chief, what did COVID, what you learned, and not just so much you, but how did COVID change firefighting?
Well, it didn't change the firefighting per se, but it changed how we responded because we also do emergency medical calls.
Okay.
Okay, so it changed that in a way. It impacted us because now we had to be fully masked. Depending on the situation you're going into in the house, you had to have extra clothing, protective clothing on because you're going into a medical call. So with COVID, the majority of us would go to the door, ring the doorbell, stand back, and ask the questions. We weren't rushing right in right away to do what we had to do because you didn't know what the situation was in the household.
And that was a change for you guys because guys are runners in.
Right, right.
You guys run towards danger.
So now you have to be a little bit more proactive because not only were you managing your department's health, while you have to manage your community's health. And a lot of times people are not forthcoming with information from the household. And, now you really have your feelers on because you have to protect your people. And throughout the country, COVID affected a lot of fire departments with people being out of work.
I remember hearing
due
that.
to COVID. So, I mean, it wasn't just here, it was everywhere. And it impacted your service delivery, it impacted your budget, it impacted the mental and physical health of your personnel because now they had to do mandatory overtime. And even now, with the shortage of personnel, you are working your people crazy because you don't have enough people in your department to even manage your department for the services that you need to render.
That is a question. So everyone has a shortage, and I asked Lamar and folks here, Poplar Springs, and all kind of businesses. Everyone has a shortage. How do you not work the people to death, the ones that you have, so that they're not having a mutiny and they're gone too?
You just have to be creative enough, and you have to have enough skills in caring about people's health, first of all. But you know that, we're a public service. So you know what comes with that. But what happens is trying to recruit people into your organization is even more challenging because people don't look at this job as a career anymore. They're here for a couple of months and they go to another department because they're paying them more money. So I tell people, if you're here for the money, this is not the place to be. If you're here to do a service to the community, the money's going to come. Because we are not just here to fight fire. We're here to do things in the community that are more than just fighting fires.
How many firefighters do you have in Petersburg?
I have approximately right now 74.
How many could you use if you're just fully staffed or whatever?
Well, right now I'd say we're about 19 below what we could probably use. And that's just counting firefighters, not just my administrative staff.
Oh, that's just the firefighters.
That's just the firefighters.
Not the people who support and all that.
No, because I mean, you know, you have your advanced life support, your ALS certified people who are advanced as paramedics. You know, you need that. So a lot of that you have to really account for when you run a fire department. And the call for service, the demand is there.
How do you, let's talk a little bit about culture as the leader of the organization. How do you change the culture to get, I always ask that and wonder that, because great organizations, I don't care whether it's military, I don't care whether you want to call it esprit de corps, and you're a coastie. Yeah. So shout out to the coasties out there. When we talk about organizations, how do you set the tone and the culture to make it a winning one?
Well, first of all, as a leader, I understand culture because I come from a lot of the culture that wasn't a positive culture.
Okay, so you know what bad culture
I know what bad culture like. Is. And now we're dealing with a community of folk coming into the fire service who aren't about that culture. You know, your younger generation, they will speak up. They'll speak to you if you're wrong. They'll speak to you if you come out your mouth wrong.
Yes.
And I've told a lot of my tenure firefighters that you can no longer approach people in that manner.
Like we did back in the day.
Back in the day. And see, culture was a way of hazing people. Okay. Mm-hmm. And when you say it's a way of hazing people, they used to tell you, well, if we don't pick on you, that means we don't like you. So how much of picking on is a person going to take before they tell you enough is enough? And how much picking on are you going to take when you take it to your superior officer and say enough is enough, and they still don't do anything about it? See, I come from that type of culture, so I know what it looks like. I know where it starts. And that's the same thing with our younger kids. You know, you get that in-house bully, and everybody supports that in-house bully because they got the biggest mouth, and they can tease you and ridicule you, and then you go home and you're sad, but you don't want to tell your parents what's going on.
That's true.
So it's the same thing. So you have to understand what you got coming into your organization today and learn how to work with that. And then you have to train your old school folks the new way of living in this new environment.
So when you do that, when you're instituting change, is it military type change where something's changing overnight, or do you have to do it in incremental small bites?
It has to be done in incremental small bites per what's going on. And sometimes the little things, the accountability has to be there right from the start, because it's the little thing that you go and let go undone that do the worst damage.
Yeah,
they do the worst damage. Yeah, they fester. It's like having a splinter in your finger and you can't get it out. And then a month later it's infected.
That is true.
And, you know, and then from there you get sepsis, and then there you have to have
you lost your finger.
You lost your finger
over a splinter.
And that's just like losing a member of your fire department.
That is true.
So that's kind of an analogy that I can place it, because if you've been in a role where you've been through all of that, you understand it. Now the thing about it is, the culture is people are afraid to let you know that they're going through these things until they get ready to leave.
Yeah. So
the accountability starts from your leadership below me. So if you're a sergeant, you need to hold your people accountable for what's going on, but you also have to hold yourself accountable. So accountability and integrity is big.
For setting the correct culture.
For setting the correct culture.
How can a person find you and become part of the process to become a firefighter in Petersburg?
They can send me an email.
Okay.
Right now, I have open applications.
Okay.
They can go to the City of Petersburg's HR website, and I'm taking applications now.
Do classes start at a particular time? Like, when's the next class of firefighters? And real, just for me, how long is that process?
Well, we have not chosen when our next class is, because I am developing and changing some things that have occurred since I've walked in the door.
And when did you walk in the door?
January the 31st, I got sworn in. I started working on the ground the same day.
Okay, let me ask you, what was the biggest thing that shocked you when you came down here? And was there any one thing?
No, it wasn't. It was quite a few things.
It was a lot of things.
I was walking into a department that hadn't had leadership for a while. And, I'm a very direct person, straight from the hip. And I understand that folk have history and they want you to hear the history. And
you wasn't for hearing too much about the history.
Well, I already knew the history. But you have to allow people to vent. Okay. Okay. Because venting is healthy. As long as it's done respectfully, it's healthy. But I have to reassure them that, you're under some leadership now, and these are the things that we need to go do to go forward. Let's leave this stuff behind, because that's the past, and we're moving towards the future.
There you go.
So, I have a fire department to build. I have skill sets to build up. I have to influence the trust, the accountability, and integrity. All I ask is for people to be honest. And when you think about it, I've already had people look me straight in the eye and lie straight at me, and I already knew the facts that I was asking. But they lied, right? And so I'm supposed to trust you. All I ask is that my members give me an opportunity to help change this department for the better. That's all I ask. It's going to be something that's going to rebel, but But
it is the way it is.
It is the way it is.
There has to be structure.
Right.
And it has to be. One of the things about the military or organizations that run with a hierarchy, it's got to be some rules.
Right.
And we just can't run on everyone's schedule. You have to fit it in and fit in with the schedule. But as leadership, you have to learn how, like you said, basic training, 60s, 70s, and 80s, we can't do it like that anymore.
Right.
You have to meet people where they are. It is a noble service. So we'd like to thank you for coming on the program.
Thanks.
One last time, how can people find you out there?
Actually, they can just hit me up by email, twatkins@petersburg-va.org.
There you go. We'd like to thank you. On the mic with Mike, we'd like to thank Chief Watkins, doing some outstanding things here. I'd like to thank our good friends here at Poplar Springs for having us. On the mic with Mike, the best business radio program around. We'll be back. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So if you guys ever, like your PR department or whatever you guys have, if you ever have any messages that you need to get out,
let you know.
Just let me know.
Okay.
And what we do is, so my show is, I don't work for the radio stations.
I know that. You got your own little thing.
Yeah, I do. And it's crazy because it turned into something.
Okay.
My wife is like, you found your thing. I did.
Right.
So, like, I'm on ESPN talking about the gospel station.
Okay.
And they never would have that. But also live dangerous that I tell people, my wife is like, you got a job that you pay them at the end of the week. Like, what happened to you? Because all of a sudden I got to this place where I got a microphone. And it's pretty cool. So when nobody was talking to the people over with the unions, damn, I don't give a damn. Come on and talk. And tell, because the one thing is, even as Black folks, a lot of times the hardest part about getting into something is getting in the door.
Right.
And when you get in the door, you got a responsibility to be able to help somebody, the next person.
Right.
Like when somebody see you with the uniform, I know little kids are like,
well, they ask me if I'm a cop.
Yeah, because who else do we know with a uniform
on? There's a thing about kids identify all uniforms with police officers. And they don't identify it in a positive way.
No. Okay, so here, look, so they had this party that I went to. Now, I don't go too far out. I don't. I don't. I stay in Richmond or a little bit of whatever. So they had this party for this lady out in Maidens, Virginia.
Okay.
I didn't know where this was. It just sounded far. So, okay, I'm like, so my wife said, she gonna go. And it's on Thursday, it starts at 5:30. And it's at this estate on River Run. I'm thinking it sounds like, River Road. I'm thinking.
Right.
All right, so as the closer you get to my wife is, I ain't going. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to this thing. So I put on my little duds, got on church shoes. So I go out there and it's out like Patterson Avenue. And when you get to like that little, like the golf course out there, Patterson Avenue, I don't know, what is it, Goochland?
It's probably Goochland. It's because I know it's not Rivers Bend, because Rivers Bend is going the other way. But I know what you're talking about, because I probably played out there.
So I'm riding, and then I see this thing that looks like a jail. But it says, work farm.
Right.
I'm looking at this like, now, it needs to say what it is. That's a jail. And now it's like 5:15. So I'm going, when I see that, I know I'm not going to be long for this place out here, because it's two, and then it says I still got like 15 miles on this little two, and on this little, and then I'm riding, and a car flashes their lights. I'm like, man, people still do that to tell you Popo's up there? And so I'm like, all right, cool. So there's a police right there. So I get to this thing, all these black folks all suited and booted. They got fur coats on, and okay, I'm like, all right. So now it's dark. Everybody's there. And when I see white folks, I know. And when they start saying, boy, this sure is far. When the white people are saying it's far.
It's far.
Especially the ones I know, these liberal ones. So I'm like, okay. Well, lady comes in that I know, and she's always late for everything. She comes flying in. Thing is halfway over. Oh my God, but the police stop. Well, I know you was riding on two wheels because that's where you always are late. And say, man, they was pulling people left and right. Okay. I'm like, I'm out of here. So when she said that, I sat in my car, I got ready to pull off. I pulled the insurance, registration, and license.
And put it right on your seat.
I got home. It was 8:15. My wife was looking, what time is it over? 8:30. You back already? I'm like, yo, when I seen the thing right there, it said the state work farm. And then Gwen comes in here. I'm like, why are you speeding on this 2-lane highway, begging for Popo to pull you over? And then I told my wife, she goes, man, you are turning into the old black man. Yes. Yes.
You gotta be, you have to guard yourself.
Yes, because
you have to guard yourself.
I left at 5 o'clock, was back at 8:15, and that was an hour's worth of riding. It was a half hour each way. She was like, you was there at no time. No, I wasn't. So when I go places, I always had that mindset of things could go haywire. And when people, and I'm 62, so when a person sees you right out the back, police, you have to, okay, you're not the police, you're fired.
Right.
And then that gives them a whole different mentality.
I got pulled in Chesterfield one night. I was trying to find my cousin, and I was actually going to a party, but the cops pulled me. And I'm like, what the heck are they pulling me for? And I'm on the phone talking to my cousin trying to find her. So when he came over to the car asking for my license and registration. So I told my cousin, I said, I've gotten pulled by the cops. She said, stop joking. I said, no, I'm not joking. I said, I told you I don't like coming out here to Chesterfield. I said, in front of the cops. So I gave my license plate, my license, and he goes back, he comes back, and he said, I said, well, what did you pull me for? He said, well, I couldn't see your license plate because I had a thing around it. I said, well, I've been driving like this since I've owned this pickup truck. He said, well, this is what we pulled you for. And I had to make sure that your license was legit. I said, well, it is legitimate. I said, because I'm a battalion chief in the city of Richmond, and my driving record has to be legitimate. He changed his whole tone. Told me this is what they do to get DUI. He thought, have you been drinking? No, sir, I have not.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, we went to this party And there was this white lady, her brother had died of a accidental drug overdose. And so it's a bunch of people in this room. And so when she's talking, they're telling, and so they had the sheriff from Chesterfield.
Right.
And so a couple, like the week before that, I broadcast from the Hilton. And so the sheriff, they came down there and they invited me to come to the Chesterfield jail with this, look at that, look at the look on his face, with this drug program. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, now it's a Friday before the Monday. Now I start thinking like,
you get locked up there on a Friday.
What did I just say?
Yeah.
Okay, so then I start joking with people, I got to go to jail on Monday. You want to go with me? Everybody's saying, my wife said, you better stop saying that. And I'm like, yeah, that is true. Like, you got bail money? Okay. And so I go over to the
bail
gym.
money ain't gonna help you. You get locked up on Friday.
Right. So the good part is I realized, it's not Friday, it's Monday. All right. So I gotta go over there. And so I'm taking all my stuff in. And then I get to the door. And there's a white dude in front of me. And like, can I see your driver's license? The white man, he just pulled this out like, bam. I'm like, why you need that? You see who I am?
Okay.
I'm here to see the sheriff.
Right.
I got a direct invitation, white man, but I'm handing my driver's license over like this. I'm standing in jail and it is not comfortable. I'm 62 and I'm trying not to.
Because you've never been, I had an opportunity to work the jail. I turned it down.
I handed it to him and I'm standing. It seemed like they had my license forever. And then they handed it back to me and they gave me a little name tag. So then they had somebody escort me up to these to the inmates. You know how when you've been scared and it's hard to get yourself together.
Yep.
And the door opens up and there's like 60 inmates in there. The people I'm there to see, the sheriff is talking crazy. I'm like, King, we're waiting for you. I'm like, hell, y'all waiting for me? And now I'm trying to set my stuff up. But now I am nervous.
Yeah. and you lock behind all those doors.
And everybody looking at me. And I'm just like, you don't know how it felt. When I finally left about 2 hours later, I sat in the car like this.
You were relieved, won't you?
Oh, Lord, have mercy. Because then like, it's not, I ain't going in that. Right. Like, why you need to know?
Imagine being an employee and you have to be searched every day going into
no.
And I remember going to the jail when it used to be in Richmond before they tore it down. And I had an interview and this young lady had to search me and it kind of looked like she was having a good time. And I was like, she said, something wrong? I said, yeah, something like you. She said, well, you're going to have to do this every day. I said, well, I tell you, get my stuff back. I said, I declined the interview and I walked out. I said, because it's just my mentality was not going to handle that.
I hear you. Well, thank you for taking the time. You know what? So you got my card. So if you guys have, all kind, whatever you got going on, just let me know. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll help you get the word out.
I may want to do some safety stuff with you.
You know what? And you could do like little, like factoids. Hey, this is, Chief Watkins of the, Petersburg Fire Department. Hey, make sure you look out for this. Make them about 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And then send
I'm
it
good
to
with
me.
That. Channel 6 has a whole library on me.
Oh, really?
From when I was in Richmond. And I used to do all kinds of stuff. I was so popular. I used to go in a place doing sweep and find me a spot to do something public safety for them. If you look back at some of the stuff that they've been doing on 6 News, a lot of that stuff comes out of file footage that they had.
Oh, so this is nothing for you. You do this.
I used to be Richard's PIO in the fire department.
Really?
Until the Broad Street fire, and they decided that I was not the face that they wanted reporting on the fire.
What was the Broad Street fire?
The big one, the VCU?
Oh, no, so I only came in 2014.
Okay, well, we had a construction site of a new building being built that caught fire.
What year was this?
Gracious. I have to look it up because I have to look it back up. But that was the day that my PIO duties ended. What was
I'm trying to think of the lady, the police officer lady. She's about your height. She's the face of the police department. She retired.
Talking about?
She goes to the beauty shop with a friend of mine owns.
She went somewhere else. You talking about what's my girl's name?
It's crazy that I can't remember her name right now.
That's my boss.
Alrighty.
Chief Watkins. Yeah, I'm gonna be en route. I'm coming from another meeting. I looked at the clock. Yeah, I didn't know what it was saying. It was a Zoom meeting, and I was trying to figure out if it's Zoom or not. Oh, okay. All right, so I'll be headed out that way. Yeah. I'm so sure. You good?
I'm good, thank you. I'm gonna get some as soon as we get Lamar in here for a couple minutes. Thank you.
That's it, right, Mike?
Is it?
All he got to get is his
That's it.
His elevator pitch, right?
That's what you said, yes. That's right, yes, ma'am. We're just gonna get that 2 minutes and that's it, that's done. Elevator pitch, we got it.
We're laughing, but you and Sam, because he likes to talk too.
I know. We're done. No, you hold on a sec, man. And next thing you know, here we are, another couple of minutes. All right, let's do this. And that way I'll send these to you. That way you guys can have them.
Okay.
Because we masked up. On the mic with Mike, ESPN Richmond back. We are with Lamar. Now, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
All right, and thank you for having us here. We are at the Grove. This is part of Poplar Springs Hospital. Let our listeners know Poplar Springs, who you are and where we are now.
Absolutely. So Poplar Springs, we are a behavioral health hospital located in Petersburg, Virginia. And right now we're at the Grove, which is our.
I was waiting until you just left it there. Okay.
And right now, we're at the Grove, which is our outpatient clinic. We do both in-person, hybrid, and virtual services for adults. It's called PHP, partial hospitalization, and also IOP, intensive outpatient program.
And how can people find you guys out there?
If you need to reach us, you can actually call us at 866-546-2229. We could do an over-the-phone assessment if you're in need of either outpatient or inpatient services. And you can also go to our website, poplarsprings.com.
All right, on the mic, Mike, we're glad to be here at the Grove, part of Poplar Springs Hospital. You can catch up with our good friends here at Poplar Springs Hospital. Say, look, we just got a array of luminaries. Come on in, you can't just sit down. You just can't. Oh, wait, no, she can't, because then we can't use that.
Yeah.
Say, okay, that's a pass right there. On the mic, Mike Lamar is here. We're coming back. We're going to be here once a month, and we're going to broadcast from this fine location here. Shout out to you guys for all the great things that you're doing, bringing the Colonial Heights sofa chamber back to radio. Give us an update. Anything new and exciting you need to let us know?
I mean, as of right now, we're doing a lot of things for our staff members. Basically, I think a few weeks ago we spoke about compassion fatigue.
Okay.
In our staff. So we are doing. We have a couple of 5Ks coming up. We actually put together a massage room over there for our staff members as well. But we're doing a lot of things in the community. Just kind of keeping our staff active, but also trying to give back. All
right, one of Mike Lamar is here. Okay.
Don't forget our evening IOP. Don't check your
head.
Say,
I was gonna say, you don't have.
We get back to our community. Okay, we are here for our community, and we meet our community right where they're at. Yes,
they will meet you. That's right, and that is in the evenings. That way, you guys, if you need help, they are here to meet you where you are. You can do it by phone. You can come, okay. You
can come in person.
In person.
Yes.
That's right. Don't. That's right. We're gonna put some respect on that name. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. Uh-oh. Okay. On the mic, Mike Lamar is here. I think we're getting a wrap up. We got to go.
All right.